only that after Elena disappeared, they always fought. My mother decided to go shopping in Harvard Square, and my father took Ash and me canoeing on the Charles. We didn't have life vests, even though my father couldn't swim. Ash and I were 8 and 11 and couldn't swim either. About 20 minutes into the whole affair, my father dropped his sunglasses into the water, then impulsively lurched after them, tipping the boat almost 45 degrees and letting in a cold surge of water. He reeled back, and the canoe promptly flipped. We all splashed into the water, clinging to the overturned canoe, not an easy task for little kids with little arms. I arranged Ash in front of me, draped his arms over the hump of the canoe, and squashed in behind him, wedging my arms around his, pinning his hands down with my own. My father's lips went white around the edges. Ash and I screamed and screamed, each waving an arm over our heads, but our father just clung to the canoe, pressing his cheek to it, his eyes squeezed shut, whimpering, "There are so many things I haven't done yet." That's all.
Good.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. So, yeah, if anybody wants to ask questions, you
what
can.
What happens
next? Read more.
How does it end?
So you don't have to read it.
Cliff notes.
Yeah.
So how come the father doesn't narrate?
So he's absent. So after the kidnapping happened, within a year he left them, and so he's not part of their lives anymore. He's absent. Hardly at all.
Is that symbolic?
Like what?
God the Father.
Oh.
I
didn't even think of that.
Wow, I didn't think of that either. Yeah, because God's absent from the book, and the Father's absent from the book.
Yeah.
It's like it's a godless universe that they're living in.
Well, not Ash.
Well, he believes, but there's no reason to believe.
He hasn't heard the voice.
In the book. What do you think? You think it's a godless universe that they're living in?
I think that in Ash's universe, it's all about God. You don't think so?
Yeah, I mean, he believes in God, but I'm wondering about the universe of the book.
Well, I think that I don't really know what you mean.
It was just I mean, you didn't think about your remark either, right? I mean, it just came. You didn't think about your remark either, or did you?
No. I mean, it's sort of it's a question that sort of would come up, whenever I read a story, I always look at how it relates to me, and the things that, how the characters relate to me, and how the themes relate to me. And I enjoy it more if it touches a chord. And so, looking at it again, because I tend to look at things a little bit symbolically. Maybe it's because of my Eastern, culture. Father represents God. He's the provider. He's the sustainer. He's what gives a family some sort of balance and gives its heritage. The mother always provides the nurturing, the love, the familial bonds is really the responsibility of the mother, so to speak. So having the father being absent in the book, it's kind of like, okay, is this a sort of symbolic? Is this symbolic of God not being presence in the novel, and how these various characters relate to the absence of that presence, and how it gives them either a deeper meaning or it gives them gives them anxiety, existential anxiety, or whatever you want to call it.
What triggers them to become religious?
Well, actually, so what happened to all of them 13 years ago? I guess the point of what's happening in the present day. The point of the novel is to show sort of how everyone's dealing 13 years later, and they've all kind of gone in totally different directions. So.
That's the thing about great writing; it leads us up into interpretation. As well,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Are all three voices equally authoritative?
I would say probably not, because I don't know, you'll have to tell me as a reader, but I think that as a reader you would probably trust Bits and Ash more than you would trust the mother. Because
Well,
you know she's
I wouldn't
up to
trust
no good.
the mother, and I wouldn't trust the guy who became Orthodox. And even though Bits is pretty screwed up, she's still, I think, the most authoritative voice in the book. That's just my feeling. I'm not a literary scholar. How do other people feel?
I would agree with that.
Like, the guy went off the deep end, and the mother's a nutter,
Right, the mom is...
and the girl's a slut, but she's still the voice of reason in this universe of insanity in this book.
Well, she recognizes her own issues as well.
I mean, you don't relate to the neurotic mother. You don't relate to this super orthodox Jew.
I mean, I'm Orthodox, but I still think he's off the deep end.
Right.
Well, because he kept flittering between different types of orthodoxy and just looking for anything to
Yeah,
fill
he's
the
totally...
void.
He's
Whereas
lost.
this-
Were you born Orthodox? Or
No,
you converted?
I converted.
You did?
Yeah. But I don't trust him.
It's interesting to go through a tragedy and become more religious. I would think. I don't know what the percentages are as a society.
Yeah.
Do people tend to become more or less religious based on tragedies? I don't know. I think is it 50-50? But
Yeah, I think it's probably 50-50, and it depends on the
Yeah, it
person.
depends on if they're
how
religious
it-
at the time. They
Well,
may
even
become less religious.
even regardless
There's
if they're
gotta be some
religious at the
studies.
time,
That's true,
like
too.
in this
Someone's
case
gotta
where he's
study.
looking for something to
Well,
fill
but-
the void of his missing sister. It
So
felt like
people
a-
who went through the Holocaust, people who
Yeah.
entered it religious tended to come out religious. People who entered it secular
Sure.
tended to come out secular.
yeah.
Well,
'Cause
but
they're
there's
blaming
also
someone.
there's also a statistic that there's just as many Jews leaving Orthodox Judaism
Yeah.
as there are secular Jews
Which you said in the
becoming
Right.
Orthodox.
Is that
What's
true?
that?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
what you said that in the book?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah,
Right.
90% of Orthodox Jews were born Orthodox.
90%, and then 10% leave.
As another 10% come in.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the traditional observant Jews who are kind of in the middle of the road are starting to go either one way or the other, and there's becoming less of a middle of the road sect. that there's
Mhm. Yeah.
That's just from what I understand.
I guess it's a small cross section of that grouping. I don't
Right.
know. I don't
Yeah.
really know from a global perspective at all, but it sounds right though.
And actually, what I read was something from the United States. It was like global
Yeah,
perspective.
okay. I would see that though. I guess from my own friends.
But of like, for what it's worth, for Jews under 18,
What?
a third are Orthodox.
Kind of a dirty copy has
It's all right.
laundry
Is that
detergent
right?
on it.
Third Orthodox in the United States.
So just like we're going to have to learn to speak Chinese as a culture because China is going to become an increasingly powerful part of the world, so too Jews will have to learn to speak Orthodox because the young people are increasingly Orthodox.
And the girl, the daughter, she's no religion.
Secular.
Yeah. Sees herself as a Jew.
That dirty word of secular.
She's what?
She sees herself as a Jew, but not religious.
Kind of, yeah.
Culturally.
Right.
She doesn't say. She doesn't specify. She's non-practicing, unaffiliated, and kind of thinks it's a little bit ridiculous.
Educated Jew.
Does she
Know
fit-
the answers.
But not. She just doesn't really think. It's like she doesn't really reject it because she does.
Right.
It's just not really on her radar, as you know.
And she was brought up that way,
Mhm.
so she knows all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
She doesn't go visit her brother.
So, well, that's kind of what it's about.
Oh, okay. I shouldn't ruin it then.
Well, she goes. She decides that she needs to go get him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's set mostly in
Good luck with
Jerusalem.
that, yeah. Challenge. Oh, it is? Okay, cool.
So
And
how'd
you've
you-
been to Israel, right?
Yeah.
You did a lot of research going there?
I
John,
did.
or-
I did a ton of research.
Did you go?
Yeah. I spent a semester there when I was in college, and then I had been there also for a summer when I was in high school. But then while I was writing it, I went back for a specific research trip.
You want to tell the yeshivas and all that.
I wanted to. emailed a lot of yeshivas and asked if I could come, and only a couple would let me come. So I did that. I did.
How
what I
did you
could.
dress when you had to go?
Modest.
Yeah.